In the ancient stone corridors of Balmoral Castle, a secret meeting is being planned that could change the British monarchy forever. King Charles III, now 77 years old and facing the mortality that comes with his recent cancer diagnosis, has allegedly made a decision that has sent shockwaves through the inner circles of the palace. Sources close to the royal household claim the king is preparing to extend an olive branch to his estranged son, Prince Harry, despite fierce opposition from his heir, Prince William. But here's what nobody's talking about. Queen Camilla has reportedly been working behind the scenes to ensure this reconciliation never happens. The question isn't whether Charles wants to heal the family divide anymore. The question is whether he's willing to risk everything, including his relationship with his eldest son and future king, to bring Harry back into the fold before it's truly too late. Welcome back to Royals Truth Network, where we dig deeper than the headlines to uncover the real stories shaping the British royal family. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today, because what we're about to expose is perhaps the most consequential moment in modern royal history. This isn't just about family drama or hurt feelings anymore. This is about succession, power, legacy, and a dying father's desperate attempt to reconcile with his son before time runs out. If you're passionate about understanding the truth behind palace walls, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We've got exclusive insights from multiple royal sources, expert analysis, and connections that will completely change how you see this family crisis. Today's investigation reveals the impossible choice King Charles faces. Does he follow his heart and bring Prince Harry home, potentially destroying his relationship with Prince William and Queen Camilla in the process? Or does he bow to pressure from the future king and abandon his youngest son forever? The answer could determine the future of the crown itself. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single minute of this. Let's start with the bombshell that emerged just days ago. According to multiple sources who spoke to The Times and The Telegraph, King Charles has been quietly planning a private summit at Balmoral Castle this coming summer. The guest list, that's where things get explosive. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are allegedly being invited, along with their children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. On the surface, this sounds like a grandfather wanting to spend time with his grandchildren, right? But palace insiders tell a dramatically different story. This isn't just a family holiday. This is Charles making what could be his final attempt to heal a wound that has festered for over 5 years. Sources claim the king has become increasingly aware of his mortality following his cancer diagnosis, which was first announced in February 2024. While Buckingham Palace has maintained that his treatment is progressing well, those close to Charles paint a more sobering picture of a man acutely aware that time is running out. The Telegraph reported in late January 2026 that King Charles has been deeply melancholic about the state of his relationship with Harry. One senior courtier allegedly told the newspaper, "His Majesty feels the weight of every missed birthday, every milestone he hasn't witnessed with his grandchildren in California. He's determined not to leave this earth with such a fundamental fracture in his family." But here's where the story takes its first dark turn. Prince William has reportedly made his position crystal clear. Any reconciliation with Harry is a betrayal, not just of him personally, but of Princess Kate, who William believes was deeply hurt by allegations made in Harry's memoir Spare, and during the infamous Oprah Winfrey interview. Sources close to William claim the future king has drawn a line in the sand. According to Page 6 and royal expert Tom Quinn, William has allegedly told his father in private conversations that he cannot and will not accept Harry back into the family fold while Meghan remains in the picture. The tension between Charles wanting reconciliation and William demanding Harry stay away has created what insiders describe as the worst crisis in their father-son relationship in decades. Think about that for a moment. Charles waited over 7 decades to become king. He's endured scandals, a disastrous first marriage, years of public ridicule, and the death of his first wife, Princess Diana. Yet sources claim this conflict with William over Harry has been more painful than almost anything he's experienced. Why? Because Charles sees both the past and the future colliding. He sees his own fractured relationship with his parents, particularly the emotional distance he experienced with Prince Philip. He sees the parallel between Diana's estrangement from the royal family and what's happening now with Harry and Meghan. And most devastatingly, he sees his two sons, once incredibly close, now refusing even to speak to each other. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams told The Express in early February that Charles has been caught in an impossible position. Fitzwilliams explained, "The king is trying to be both a father and a monarch, but in this situation, those two roles are fundamentally incompatible. As a father, he wants to embrace his son. As a monarch, he must consider the stability of the institution and the wishes of his heir." This brings us to Queen Camilla, whose role in this drama has been significantly underestimated. Multiple sources have told The Sun and Daily Mail that Camilla has been quietly, but effectively lobbying against any rapprochement with Harry. Why would she do this? Several factors are allegedly at play. First, sources claim Camilla has never forgiven Harry for comments he made about her in his book, where he allegedly suggested she was dangerous and willing to sacrifice anyone, including him and William, to improve her own public image. Second, Camilla reportedly believes that bringing Harry and Meghan back, even partially, would create chaos and negative press coverage that could undermine Charles's reign. Remember, Camilla spent decades working to rehabilitate her own image after the Diana years. The last thing she wants, sources suggest, is for attention to shift back to the drama and division Harry and Meghan generate. A palace source told the Daily Mail in January the Queen has made her feelings known in private. She believes the best thing for everyone, including Harry, is to let sleeping dogs lie. She thinks Charles is being sentimental and not thinking clearly about the consequences. Here's what makes this even more complicated. Camilla doesn't just have personal influence over Charles. She has genuine institutional support. Princess Anne, the king's sister and one of the most respected working royals, has reportedly aligned with Camilla and William on this issue. According to The Times, Princess Anne believes Harry made his choice when he decided to pursue commercial deals with Netflix and various publishing houses. She allegedly views his actions as incompatible with royal duty and believes any reconciliation would send the wrong message about accountability. Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, have reportedly taken a more neutral stance, but even they have expressed concerns privately about the logistics and optics of bringing Harry back into any official capacity. So we have Charles essentially alone in his corner, desperate for reconciliation, facing a united front of his wife, his heir, and his siblings. The isolation he must feel is profound, and it raises a crucial question. Is Charles strong enough to stand against everyone he loves and trusts to do what his heart tells him is right? Let's talk about the financial dimension, because this isn't just about hurt feelings and family gatherings. There's serious money and power at stake. Prince William, as heir to the throne, controls the Duchy of Cornwall, which generated over £23 million in revenue in 2023 alone. That money funds William, Kate, and their children's lives and royal duties. Harry, meanwhile, receives nothing from the sovereign grant or royal estates. Since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, he and Meghan have had to fund their California lifestyle through deals with Netflix, Spotify, which ended in 2023, Penguin Random House, and various other commercial ventures. Sources estimate their net worth at around $60 million, but they've also got significant expenses. Security costs alone are estimated at several $1 million annually. Here's where the inheritance battle comes in. King Charles is reportedly worth over $750 million when you include assets from the Duchy of Lancaster, personal investments, and inherited wealth. While much of this is technically held in trust for the crown, Charles does have personal wealth he can distribute as he sees fit. Multiple sources have told the Daily Mail that Charles has considered establishing a substantial trust fund for Archie and Lilibet, potentially worth tens of millions of pounds. Prince William is allegedly furious about this possibility. Why? Because he sees it as rewarding Harry's departure and commercial exploitation of the family. William reportedly believes that Harry gave up any right to royal wealth when he chose to write Tell all books and participate in documentary series that criticize the royal family. The battle over money is really a battle over something deeper, legitimacy and belonging. If Charles gives Harry significant financial support, it signals that Harry is still valued, still part of the family, despite everything. If he doesn't, it confirms Harry's exile is complete and permanent. Meghan's role in all of this cannot be overlooked. Public opinion, especially in the United Kingdom, remains sharply divided on the Duchess of Sussex. Poe. Now, let's talk about what happens if Charles actually goes through with this Balmoral reconciliation. Summit against William's wishes. Royal experts suggest the consequences could be catastrophic. William could interpret it as his father choosing Harry over him, the heir and future king. This could fundamentally damage the Charles-William relationship, potentially creating a Cold War within the palace that would last for years. Tom Bower, the royal biographer, told the Daily Mail that such a scenario could even lead to William and Kate reducing their royal duties in protest, which would be an institutional disaster. The royal family relies heavily on William and Kate's popularity and work ethic. Without their full engagement, Charles's reign would be significantly weakened. There's also the question of public perception. If Charles is seen as weak or sentimental, willing to overlook public criticism and institutional damage for personal feelings, it could undermine his authority as monarch. The British people generally respect strength and consistency in their royals. Any perception that Charles is being manipulated or making emotional rather than rational decisions could be damaging. On the other hand, if Charles sides with William and permanently closes the door on Harry, the consequences are equally grim. Harry would be formally exiled, and the narrative that the royal family is cold, unforgiving, and willing to abandon its own members would be reinforced. Charles would have to live with the knowledge that he chose institutional stability over his own son, and he'd face his final years and eventual death knowing that reconciliation never happened, and that wound never healed. According to sources who spoke to the Sunday Times, Charles has been consulting with religious advisors and close friends about this dilemma. He's reportedly been reading about forgiveness, family, and legacy. He's been reflecting on his own relationship with his parents and what he wishes had been different. One source claimed the king keeps asking himself what Queen Elizabeth II would do, but then he realizes his mother had a very different personality and approach to family matters. She could compartmentalize in ways he cannot. He feels everything more deeply. This vulnerability, this emotional openness, is both Charles's greatest strength and his biggest weakness as a monarch. It makes him relatable and human, but it also makes him susceptible to criticism that he's not firm enough, not regal enough. What about Harry's perspective? Sources close to the Duke of Sussex tell a story of a man torn between the life he's built in California and the family and heritage he left behind in Britain. Friends of Harry claim he watches British news, keeps track of royal events, and genuinely misses aspects of his old life. He allegedly regrets some of what he said in his book and various interviews, though he maintains the core of his complaints were valid. Harry's biggest fear, according to sources, is that his father will die before they truly reconcile. He allegedly told a friend last year, "I don't want my last memory of my father to be a cold, formal conversation at a funeral. I want to actually know him and let him know my children." But Harry also feels trapped. He believes returning on the royal family's terms would mean abandoning Meghan, betraying the principles he stood up for, and subjecting himself to an institution he fundamentally believes needs reform. Are you Team William or Team Harry on this? Let me know in the comments, because I know our community is divided on this issue, and I respect all perspectives. Let's consider the historical parallels, because this isn't the first time the royal family has faced internal exile and estrangement. King Edward VIII abdicated in 1936 to marry Wallis Simpson, and spent the rest of his life essentially in exile, with a complicated, often hostile relationship with his brother King George VI. Princess Margaret was forbidden from marrying Peter Townsend in the 1950s, and lived with that heartbreak and resentment for decades. Prince Andrew's current situation, following the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, shows how the institution can completely shut out even a son of the monarch when necessary. What these historical examples show is that the royal family has always prioritized institutional survival over individual happiness. The question is whether that approach is still sustainable in the modern era, with social media, 24-hour news cycles, and a public that increasingly values authenticity over tradition. The Times published a fascinating analysis in January 2026, arguing that the crown faces an existential crisis. It must evolve to remain relevant, but evolution risks destroying the very mystique and tradition that justifies its existence. The Harry situation is a perfect microcosm of that dilemma. Does the royal family show mercy, forgiveness, and modern family values by reconciling with Harry? Or does it maintain standards, boundaries, and institutional dignity by keeping him at arm's length? Now, here's what's been happening behind the scenes that most people don't know about. According to Page 6 and sources in California, Harry and Meghan have been quietly working with reputation management consultants to potentially smooth the way for some kind of return or reconciliation. They've allegedly scaled back some of their more controversial public statements and are focusing their public work on less divisive issues like mental health and veterans support. Meanwhile, in London, sources claim Prince William has been consolidating his power and influence. He's been taking on more prominent royal duties, positioning himself as the steady, reliable future of the monarchy. He's allegedly told aides that when he becomes king, there will be zero tolerance for the kind of public family drama that has plagued his father's reign. Queen Camilla, for her part, has reportedly been making her case to Charles that reconciliation would overshadow everything else positive happening in his reign. She's allegedly argued that every appearance with Harry and Meghan would become a media circus, drowning out important royal work and charity initiatives. Sources claim she's told Charles, "You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped, and you can't force institutional people to accept someone who has actively worked to undermine the institution." The financial pressure is also intensifying. Harry and Meghan's Netflix deal is reportedly coming up for renewal, and Netflix is allegedly interested in more royal content. This creates a fundamental conflict of interest. How can the royal family reconcile with people who are commercially incentivized to continue producing content about the family drama? William has allegedly used this argument repeatedly with his father. "They're profiting from our family's pain. How can we trust them?" And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Here's what our sources say is actually going to happen. According to multiple palace insiders who spoke to The Telegraph and The Times, King Charles is moving forward with his Balmoral plan, but with significant modifications. The invitation to Harry and Meghan will reportedly include strict conditions: no cameras, no recording devices, complete privacy, and an agreement that nothing discussed will be shared publicly or used in any commercial capacity. But here's the twist that changes everything. Prince William will not be attending. Neither will Princess Kate or their children. This means Charles is effectively choosing to pursue reconciliation with Harry in a way that doesn't force William to participate or condone it. It's a compromise that satisfies no one, but might be the only path forward. William gets to maintain his distance and his principles. Harry gets time with his father, and Charles gets to see his grandchildren and attempt some measure of healing before it's too late. But sources close to Camilla say she's livid about this decision and feels Charles is making a terrible mistake. She's allegedly told friends, "This will blow up in his face, and I'll be left to pick up the pieces." The summer of 2026 could therefore bring either a miraculous royal reconciliation or an even deeper, more permanent split. Either way, the British monarchy will never be quite the same. So what does all of this mean for the future of the crown? If the Balmoral meeting happens and goes well, it could create a pathway, however narrow, back to some kind of relationship between Harry and his family. But it won't resolve the fundamental issues: Harry and Meghan's commercial activities, William's deep mistrust, Camilla's opposition, and the public's divided opinions. If the meeting goes poorly or doesn't happen at all, Harry will likely remain permanently estranged, and Charles will have to live with that failure for whatever time he has left. The human cost of all this is staggering. A father unable to see his son and grandchildren, Brothers who once were inseparable now refusing to speak. Children growing up without knowing their extended family. A monarchy that prides itself on tradition and continuity, unable to maintain its own family unity. What we're witnessing is a Shakespearean tragedy playing out in real time, with real people suffering real consequences. King Charles is learning what many powerful people learn too late, that all the titles, wealth, and authority in the world can't solve the most basic human problems of love, forgiveness, and family. The crown that Charles waited 7 decades to wear may ultimately feel far heavier than he ever imagined, not because of its weight in gold and jewels, but because of the impossible choices it forces him to make. This is a man who is everything and nothing simultaneously. He's king of the United Kingdom and 15 other Commonwealth realms, but he can't bring his own family together. He has access to the